Okay, let's trim. So I'm going to show off my lovely trimming tools. So I have these really nice trimming tools. They're made by a gentleman, an older man, who has designed the handles. Everything are handmade by him. They're sharp as can be. Because they're so sharp, and one of the reasons that I like them, they're quite expensive though. If I drop one and I hit the end here on the concrete or anything and it breaks, I'm looking at $90 for a replacement. Although Phil Boback is the guy that makes these. He's pretty good about replacing and stuff like that, but each one of these cost me about $100 and some. But because they're so sharp and I work with porcelain, it makes it easier for me to trim, because porcelain's pretty finicky. Maybe that's why I like it. It's a little difficult, but it is pretty finicky, and it can be a little precarious, and nice sharp tools like this make it so I can trim just a little bit past leather hard. So it'll be a little chalky, but because this is so sharp, I can trim them. And one of the reasons that I would want to trim at that stage is because porcelain warps, and it warps really easily. So if I trim something, then it's really important that it stays in the round like a plate. If I trim it when it's leather hard, like I would normally a cup or something like that, and I push it out around, the porcelain remembers that, and in the firing, when it fires up, it'll start to flex and move, and I won't have a nice round plate anymore. So for that reason, I like to trim past leather hard when there isn't a lot of flex. It makes things a little bit more precarious when it comes to trimming, but it does make for a nicer product. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm nice and centered. I need my glasses on for this. And I have to, typically I trim directly on the wheel head, but because my plate is a little bit wider than the pins on the wheel, I have to do this on a bat. So the first thing I'm going to do is just set it down as closely to what I think is the center as possible, brace myself, and as this turns around and touches my hand, my finger, I'm going to move it towards the center a little bit more. So what I'm basically doing is measuring the empty space between my finger and the lip of my dish. As it comes around and touches my finger, I know it's a little bit off there, so I'm going to push it a little bit more to the center. I'm going to keep doing that until that empty space is even all the way around, or as close to even as possible. And I can go ahead and check that now by just making a little score line on the edge, and I can look and see that it's the same distance, that little score line from the edge all the way around, and it is. So I think I'm pretty well centered. A little trick that I have to keep things on set is to wet this just a little bit, and then I need some clay to hold this in place. It's absolutely unnecessary that we have just, like logs and logs of clay holding your piece together on the wheel. You really just need something long and thin, and you want to put it there, and then you want to press towards here. You want to make sure that you're not pressing it and moving your piece, because you just spent all that time centering it. So you want to keep it centered. So I'm going to do that in 3 different spots. And again, it really helps if you wet things just a little bit to get everything to stick together a little bit better and not move around. Another thing you can do before you put your plate down is kind of squirt just a light mist of water onto the wheel head, and it kind of creates a vacuum, which would keep it from also moving around. So now this is sturdy in place, and I don't have to worry about that. So the first thing I'm going to do is decide what tool, and I'm going to go ahead with my larger trimming tool to start, and that's called the duckbill. So I'm going to start with my duckbill. You can see right here, that's what the duckbill looks like. And I am going to use that score line as a guide, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just start spinning my wheel, not going too fast. I started out a little fast there. And as you can see, I'm trimming the edge, creating that outside foot, cleaning up that edge. I'm also moving my trimming tool. I'm not just holding it straight, like straight up and down or whatever, because I am literally carving the outside of this plate. So you actually want to move your tool along with you so you create a nice even space. So there's the outside. I've made a nice transition between here and here. I don't know if you can see that right there. And now I'm going to I'm going to take a little bit more off right there, because I don't think I'm going to do it inside of this. Remember, I mentioned that because it's going to be a commercial in a commercial space, and if I carve out this inside right here, they'll have to clean that out over and over again when they take it in and out of the dishwasher. And you know, for home space, that's okay. But in a commercial space, they don't have time for that. You know, they want to be able to take it out, use it right away, put it back into the pastry case. So we're going to make it as easy as possible. So when I do work, I do try to think about how my pieces are going to be used and the environment that they're going to be in. And it's then that I can make the choices on how it should be made and what is the best design for how it's going to be made. I mean, we tend to just, you know, use our dinnerware, use things in our environment without really thinking about them, which kind of is a good idea, a good thing, because we have so many other things to think about. Who wants to think about, you know, their dish or their cup or, you know, silly things like that? But you will notice that every morning when you have your coffee or your tea or your juice, however you start out your day, you typically go to reach for the same glass or cup or mug. Why is that? It's because that feels comfortable to you. So that's what I mean about enhancing your lifestyle, making it easier. You're subconsciously choosing that piece over and over again because it makes your life easier. It feels comfortable in your hand. You like the saying on the side of it. You like all those things. So as a maker, I think about those things when I'm making them. I hope that when you pick up one of my handmade objects or drink from one of my handmade mugs, that you are actually feeling as though this has enhanced your life and not made it more difficult. So in a commercial environment where I really want to see them use handmade items, having something that doesn't have this inside ring right here is going to make it easier for them to use it, and they're going to appreciate me as the maker more for thinking of them in that regard. One more thing before I take this off. I'm going to do one more little special thing. I have a little undercut right here, which I do on purpose, that you will not see. And what I mean by undercut, when I look down on here, I can't see this space under here. And I do that little undercut in prep for glazing. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to do next with this particular piece. And doing that kind of keeps the clay on the side of my pot or my platter in this case, and not on the foot. We want a nice clean foot. We want it to look like, even though it's handmade, we want it to look like a professional craftsperson made it. Hence me, Clamma, is the professional craftsperson. So now I'm going to use a little smaller duck bill that is also one of those tools. See how it's a little bit smaller, but I'm going to use this shape right here and this shape curve right here to create a little indent on my plate. What this is going to do is just take out some of that added weight that's just sitting there. Well, I'm going to slow down a little bit. I almost made a mistake. So now, see how I still have that definition between where the foot ends and the piece begins, but now I have this nice little indentation there. I'm also going to do a little tiny 45 on that edge. Because this is the original bottom, in other words, I threw it right from there, and when I cut it, I cut it directly off the potter's wheel. I'm just gonna go over it real quick with a metal rib to straighten any bumps or anything else that might be on there. And all that's gonna do is just get rid of that. And one last thing. We'll smooth everything out, so we don't want any rough edges. We want it to be nice and soft edges. Just adding a little bit of a damp, where there's just, look at all the cat hair in there. My kitties hang out in the studio at night, and they love to play with the sponges. Lucky if I have any sponges in the morning, I have to hide them from them. And if I forget, spend the next day looking for sponges. So this particular one's been battered around quite a bit because I see it has cat hair all over it. I'm going to turn this upside down, or the right way up, and so now you can see that I have a nice platter. Okay? And this would probably be considered a platter. It is about, how big is it? There's a little measuring thing right here. So it is, it's 10 inches in diameter. So once this is trimmed up, it would be the size of a 10-inch dinner plate. I mean, dinner plates sometimes are 12 inches nowadays, but really, people, that's why we're so heavy. We eat too much, too big of portions. Anyway, till the next time, peace out.